know if Andy is with us yet.
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know. We're going to find out. There he is. So before we get before that, Andy, you know, if you were just listening for the last couple of minutes, we had like that's kind of like a Golden Girls, you know, like thank you for being a friend, and Dionne Warwick, that's what friends are for. Did you ever do any songs about friends?
You disappeared just then.
I'm back now. I said, did you ever do any songs about friends?
I wouldn't say specifically about friends, but we kind of songs are always drawn on not exactly personal experiences. That's what I'm still waiting for. I'm waiting for that song to kind of like one that's going to really affect me, you know.
Yeah.
But I think mostly your friends are wrapped up in your songs, but you kind of take elements of their personalities and you somehow you weave them into the narrative of the song, you know.
Wonderful. Well, this is a great segue and introduction to you, Mr. Bell. Do you want to be known as Andy or Andrew? We heard earlier that Carl Schmidt, who was one of our speakers earlier, said that you may be going by Andrew these days. Is that true?
Oh, I love Andy because it's kind
you
of
love it. That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Well, Andy, Digger, whatever you like.
Well, wonderful. Let's introduce you as Andy Bell, and it's such a pleasure to speak with you. I was a disc jockey back in the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s and 90s. So I played your music on radio stations and helped break some of that music here in the US. And it was so much fun. And I didn't know about you and your history. I wasn't really out myself. I didn't know a ton about you, but over the years, we've certainly learned a lot about your life, your rich history, and what you've been through. And so today we are just so thrilled to have you on board. And you know, as the forming member of Erasure, that little history, this bio blurb that we had in our information, talking about how you and Vince Clarke had advertised for a singer, and he was was he somebody that you really looked up to? Was that the deal?
He was. I mean, he was one of my heroes. He was.
Yeah.
I studied the charts when I was a teenager. You know, I listened to Radio Caroline, and that was a pirate radio station, which was offshore. You know, until it got raided, but it was offshore. And I had my nan, my favorite nan, because I was the oldest grandson. She bought me an ITT Combat Command radio, so I could pick up Radio Caroline and I listened to it under my pillow in my bed. So I kind of learnt the charts off by heart, you know, and all the music people and stuff like that.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I actually just purchased a radio station here in Palm Springs, K-Gay. It's the gayest radio station in the world.
Wow.
And so we play your music, and we've been talking about this all week, and it's just a thrill to have you, Andy Bell, with us today, founding member of Erasure. And you know, the songs like Chains of Love and Little Respect and Oh L'Amour, I almost sang it. I sang it during the dress rehearsal, but I decided I would only say it today. So, you know, a 3-decade plus career, and we're just really happy to have you here and to talk a little bit about your life experience, and then some of the work you're doing with the Hetrick Martin Institute and the charity Diverse and Above the Stag. I don't know that, but it's London's only LGBTQ theater company. We've got a number of those theater companies here in Palm Springs. So Andy, a pleasure. Let's let you take it away, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much as well. Thank you for the invitation. I mean, I think there are quite a few lesbian and gay theatres in London, but the one that I'm a patron of is called Stag, and we've been doing this series of work by this amazing poet and dramatist called Barney Ashton Bullock, and he's a real word playsmith. And tonight it's funny because he's DJing in one of the pubs in London that's kind of open for the first night tonight. Like he DJ upstairs. Hello, can you still see me? Yeah. And I mean, we work together like all the time. You know, we've done so far 3 plays and read poetry. I've sang his songs, made 3 albums. And for me, it's an important part of being outside of Erasure, because Erasure is kind of, I love it, but it's kind of like my daytime job, you know, and my full-time living. But at the same time, you've got to go out and you've got to challenge yourself, you know, to do stuff. And I found out, I thought I would be a good actor, but I found out actually that speaking words is a totally different thing to singing them. That's why I've kind of, I'd like to start to learn Shakespeare, because he's spoken and poetry at the same time, and I think that might be a bit easier for me, for my mind to remember. I don't know who appeared on my screen. There's a handsome man with let's kick ass behind his.
Yes, he was when you're in a view that if somebody else talks, it switches over to whomever's voice happens to come up. So, but you're on our screens all the time, so we're definitely seeing you here as well. Yeah, you're muted now. I think everything's good. So tell us tell us more about what. First, let's just go through the career. I think we should spend a little time, and you know, the coming out story. I think we all would like to hear that, and you know what that was like, and what discrimination you faced, maybe from the record labels or your fans, etc.
Well, I think I was very fortunate because, you know, in one way, you know, I think Vince Clarke and I meeting together was kismet, you know, and he'd worked with Depeche Mode and Alison Moyet, and a lot of people thought that Alison Moyet was black, that she was a black lesbian, you know, because of her voice and then how she looked, and which she has an affinity to, you know, but and so Vince was so credible. He was such a credible artist, and like quite left field compared to like most of the other stuff that was going on. And also, to this day, we're not even signed to an independent label called Mute Records, which in some ways is a benefit, and in other ways you don't get the publicity that a major label would afford you, you know. So anyway, so I answered this advert in 1985, which was said, versatile singer, established songwriter looking for versatile singer. So I thought, I'll try that. You know, so I was already in a band, but I thought, I answered the ad, and I was living in a gay cooperative at that time. It was like one of the last gay cooperatives in London. And one of my flatmates has said to me, because I rehearsed along to Yaz Records and Alison Moyet and Communards, that's going to be you in a year's time. And I was like, you know, and I thought, or maybe I should write Vince Clarke a letter and see if he needs a singer. So I answered this ad, just random, on this weekend, and I called up and they said, well, we're having auditions this weekend. If we don't find anybody, we'll give you a ring on Monday. You know, and that was that. So I thought I wouldn't hear from them again. And then they called again on Monday and they said, oh, have you heard of a guy called Vince Clarke? And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you joking? You know, and they said, can you come down today for a rehearsal? So I said, yes, of course, you know. And I went down, and I just thought, I'm going to have the best day of my life. You know, I'm going to have the most fabulous day. If I get the job or not, I'm going to be in the studio with Vince Clarke. And I took an umbrella, which was like massive, but it was like orange and brown, this umbrella. And Vince said, that's how he remembers me, because of my umbrella. But that's his dry sense and his way of kind of like keeping you in your place, kind of thing. But I kind of I sang 2 songs, and then, you know, for me it was like an honor just to be in the studio to sing with Vince, you know. And I'd met him before. This is all in my notes, which I pre-prepared, but it's all coming now. But so I sang this one song, and all of a sudden, falsetto just came out of my mouth on Who Needs Love Like That, which then came on to be our first single. But I'd never tried it before, you know. And I was a huge Jimmy Somerville fan, you know, and I was going to be in the cathedral choir in my school, in my grammar school, which I never was, but because of my voice, you know. And really, it sounds quite vain, but I loved my voice, and I just thought, you know, this is kismet, you know. But I wasn't going to hang all of my hopes upon this one day, so I just enjoyed myself, went home, and then the next day the phone rang, and I knew it was them, and I answered the phone. And they said, "Oh, hi, this is Mute Records. Vince is very interested. He would love to work with you. Would you like to record an album with him? You know, but he had a single coming out already, because he was kind of doing the Soul to Soul thing before Soul to Soul did it with different kinds of singers. But his producer said, no, you have to get another single singer. So I think he was just looking for the. I think a gay man was ideal for him. Yeah, because you know, he's kind of one of those. I wouldn't say alpha males, but he's very sensitive. You know, he's really sensitive, and he wants the fairest thing for everybody. So, and I said, yes, please. I would love to have the job. And they put me on £150 retainer for like about 3 months before we started recording. So I went and took my then girlfriend, who'd helped me come out, to Ibiza. We ended up on in the middle of the night on the square in Ibiza town, and these two guys came up to me. I was on a bench and said, "Oh, would you like to come and stay with us?" And I said, "Oh, yes, please." "Oh, here's my friend." And I said, "Oh no, it's okay," because my female friend was there. So we got a hotel. But eventually we went into the studio with Vince, and I was kind of like so awestruck that I just was sitting in the studio staring at him, you know, which he might have thought I was a serial killer or something, you know. But I knew he was Cancerian. So I thought, well, I'm going to penetrate your shell, however you would like to take that, you know.
And what did he say to that?
Well, he didn't say anything. I mean, they were honestly, they were making me try to feel so comfortable, telling me jokes and stuff, you know. But you know how straight men are with their humor. It's kind of I didn't really quite get the humor, so I had boys visiting me in the studio, and because I was kind of showing off to these boys, and then Vince assumed that I might be gay, you know, so I kind of told him. I think it came out in an interview that we did together. So, but he's always been totally cool with everything, you know. Cheers.
Wow. Cheers to you. Hey, we just got something in the chat. You might remember, let's see, a gentleman named David Perry, Parry, said that he toured with you as the tour accountant a number of years ago, and he's now living out here in the Palm Springs area in Rancho Mirage.
Yes, I think I do remember him, and he was quite a hunk, if I remember.
Well,
he always wore bicycle shorts. If it's the same guy that I'm thinking of.
Well, he's not showing us the file. At least I'm not seeing him online. But that's it. At least you've got a good memory of that. That's fantastic.
I always have to see the person or hear the voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, where is it?
Oh, there we hear. Oh, there he is.
Hi, Andy.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. I'm still in touch with my favorite twin backing singers, Veronique and Clarice. Annie, yes. I'll tell them we connected today. They'll be thrilled. But thank you for
Oh,
doing this today.
fantastic. Are they
Really
still
great.
working? Are they in the UK?
No, I'm here in this valley. I live in Rancho
Yeah.
Mirage, which is right next to Palm Springs, and I'm
Right.
working for Blue Shield of California, including leading their what we call employee resource groups tied to Pride.
Brilliant, lovely.
Great to see you
Wow.
today.
You too, sir. You too.
David, thank you so much for saying hi today and reaching out. That's a great story, and it's really fun. You know, the music business back in the '80s was certainly was really a fun time. You know, MTV had just come on. I think you got a lot of exposure through MTV. You probably
Later,
you probably got a little later,
Yeah.
little later. Yeah, because what year was your first single? 79 or 80?
Well, our first single was
Together?
86, but our first kind of breakthrough in the US was 89, I think.
Was it that late? Okay, it was later than
Or
that. Yeah.
80
Yeah,
or
okay.
89. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've just got so many albums. It's
I know.
unbelievable. Yeah, but that's how
25 million. You've sold
that's how-
25 million albums.
in the old, in the old like 50s, they would be doing 100 albums
I know.
in their career.
Yeah.
It was like one after the other, after the other, after the other.
Yeah. Did you see the? I recently saw the biopic on the monkeys, and that was interesting. It had some truth, obviously, to it, but they were pushed to continuously release albums. Did you ever feel that pressure to produce, or were you able to be more artists and do it on your own schedule?
Not at all. I mean, everything that we've done has always been at our own pace, and I mean, artists are kind of like racehorses, and they get, the bosses, they get their fillies to come along when they're 21, when they're at the peak of their fitness, and they make a bet. And it literally, they make a bet, and it's. I even found that I thought that was part of my kind of like gay kind of christening, if you like, in the US, because apart from, bless his heart, Sylvester, who was a god, he was a god, and some other people, surely that I don't know, but and Tom Robinson here in the UK, we I made that pact, I said to my then boyfriend of came to be 25 years, he said, don't come out, it will ruin your chances of success. I just said, something, honey? I said, I'm not prepared to take that. I don't want to lie, I want to tell it how it is, and to hell with the consequences, and people don't realize how powerful, and still to this very day, media and the radio, TV, everything is so kind of macho, or call it macho, but they're the ones that like a good slapping, but we had so many. I have to take my hat off. We had Seymour Stein, Howie Klein, the guy from Elektra, Clive Davis.
Oh, Clive Davis, yeah.
And even Madonna, her manager. They all put bets on Erasure to like calm and try and conquer the top 10 at least. And we almost got there. And in that time, I'm not saying it's worse than it is now, because I think now, I mean, it's so saturated. You kind of like, you only get one chance. In those days, you had more than one chance. And I was kind of like really, really upset when I found out that Joni Mitchell had been dropped by Warner Brothers, because that's like dropping Picasso,
Right.
you know?
Right, from an art museum. I know, I get it.
Yeah. You know, that's like redundant.
I know. So I want to go back to something a minute ago. You talked about coming out, but let's because this is the HIV Aging Positively Reunion Project. One of the questions that came up in the chats is, did you experience discrimination or different attitudes after revealing your HIV status, particularly in the entertainment business?
Well, I want to refer to a story that I had quite a few things written down, but one in particular was I'm not sure which year it was, but we were on tour. I think we were in the US, and we got this call. Some call came through from the editor of the News of the World, which was like, you know, a Murdoch-owned paper. What a surprise, you know, in 1998, no, it's 1988 or something, to say they got a call from this guy who'd claimed that, well, he'd stolen my jacket in the nightclub Heaven, and we were boyfriends. I never knew this boy in my life, and that I'd infected him with HIV, and it was totally untrue. You know, I'd had my partner Paul, he became positive in, I think it was, let's see, about 19. Sorry, I'm just looking through my notes. It doesn't really matter. Okay. But anyway, he became positive before me, and then he wouldn't have sex with me because he didn't want to infect me. You see, but I'd had my appendix out, and the same time I had my appendix out, they took a blood test, and my blood test was negative. So we had this proof that this boy was lying, you know, and my Paul, he had to take a letter down to the newspaper offices. They wouldn't let him in the building, even in the vicinity of the building. He passed the letter through the gate post to somebody on the other side, you know, and they said, we're going to print this article that Andy Bell has infected this guy with HIV. So I'd called my parents and my gran and said, look, if you see this story on the weekend, on Sunday, in the News of the World, now defunct, don't believe it. Of course. It's not true, right? But so this, I was very fortunate, you know, but this was hanging over my head the whole time. And, you know, I mean, Erasure was kind of rising and rising and rising. And we went to, you know, up until 1995, you know, and I'm not sure when this all happened, but I found out that I was HIV positive in 1998. Okay. And, you know, I was in Mallorca. Paul had gone over to see the tennis in Wimbledon, and he said, to one of our dear friends, I'm really concerned about Andy. Can you go and check on him? So he went and checked on me, and I was in the bed. I had double pneumonia, which counts for AIDS, and they took me to the hospital, and the nurses said, you've got AIDS, and they were very kind of, they saved my life, you know. They were quite dismissive, and it really, really hurts. You know, when they put the cannulas into your arm, they weren't being gentle, you know. They were kind of being really, really rough. This was in 98? This was in 1998. Wow. Yeah, that hurt me more than anything else, was being there, you know. But they saved my life, you know. So I can't complain about this, you know. Sure.
How about the entertainment business, though? You know, I found the entertainment business to be fairly forgiving, the record and radio industry.
Sorry, you froze.
Gay radio and rec. What's that? Oh, sorry about that. I think
Yeah,
we're
you
back
froze.
now.
Just a bit, middle bit, yeah.
Okay. Are you back? Are we back now? Yeah, I
We're
think
back.
so. So back in the day, when we used to go to radio and record conferences, Billboard, all those, we had a group of LGBT or gay radio friends, mostly gay men, but some lesbian women in the industry
Yeah.
as well. We used to get together and go out, and we had our own little secret society because we didn't feel we could be out in during that time of the business. And obviously things have changed now. There's really not much of a need for that. But I mean, for the most part, the industry, I felt, was fairly accepting of both HIV status and of being LGBTQ.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, you know, to a certain extent it was. And as I said before, you know, it was kind of like you were a rank outsider, you know, but with talent, you know. So, and it is a gamble. You know, the whole thing is a gamble. People don't realize it. It's the same as roulette table, you know. And and people don't realize what you're up against. You know, they think like, oh well, you know, this record only got to number 12, like blah blah blah. That's your worth. Do you know what I mean? And I think, well, you don't really know what's you know, I mean, it's amazing. I find it amazing with the longevity of our career, which I think it's, you know, with being with Vince, who's very sad as far as media goes, you know, and he's always insisted on being below the radar, and and it's also like kind of like no news is the best news, because people are kind of like wondering what are you doing and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's like we were never ever featured like in the rock press, you know, which I thought, you know, being an out gay man and then later on out HIV positive man was the most rock and roll thing that you could do. You know, but all the rock and roll papers, no
Rolling Stone cover,
never ever. They did not want to be associated with it in whatsoever.
But you know, again, 25 million albums sold and all the downloads and everything else that happens now, you know, you can laugh all the way to the bank with residuals and, you know, all that fun stuff. So, hey, you know, if you don't have a #1 record, who cares?
I'm sorry, you know, I just I have to get it off my chest, but
I know, I get it.
I'm not bitter, honestly.
No, and I understand it, you know, but and having been on the other side, on the radio side, I know the manipulation that went on with charts. So, you know, not having a #1 song, you know, Disco Duck by Rick Dees was a #1 song, and you know, there's no longevity to that song.
You know, we get like you know, we play in Utah all the time. We're like really popular in Utah and Texas, you know, and DJs are asked to come to see the show for free, and they don't play us. So it's like, hello, you know.
Now, one of the questions that came up in the chat, this is actually from someone in Texas. Do any of your songs allude to HIV? He said, I feel there could be a few, but I have yet to hear anything that I could definitely say, yes, this lyric is about HIV.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard for me, you know, I can't, I'm quite a random person. You know, I kind of like, I try to make it about a story, and I try to make it personally specific, but I find that really difficult. You know, I'm still trying to do that, you know. I kind of, I think our closest probably to that was World Be Gone, which was, I think, 3 albums ago.
Okay.
You know, I think there was one song, or there's a song called Careful What You Wish For, but there's another song about being, laying on the steps of City Hall, you know, which was about, you know, I forget, you know, we were, when I must admit, you know, Jimmy Somerville is my hero, you know, and Boy George too, you know, but Jimmy Somerville, he was the activist out there on the front line, along with Peter Tatchell, you know, and I've done kind of like quite a few documentaries, and you end up not appearing in them, you know, after you've said your thing. So it's a bit frustrating, but, you know, for me, Jimmy has always been the one, you know, and I kind of, sometimes, I mean, it's, you know, Jimmy fans and our fans, we, you know, when we do gigs together, we did a gig for Daisy Chain, which is for food for HIV people, you know, but it's kind of like this tension between the fans, you know, because I'm the soft version,
right?
And Jim is the activist person, you know.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the soft side. So, what's your most personal? This is another question from one of our participants today. What's the most personal song you've written or that was performed by Erasure? Either you've written yourself or that you've performed as the Erasure.
I wrote one song about my mum, which was very difficult because she was an alcoholic, you know, and she was on her deathbed, and my father had like a nervous breakdown or more, you know, and there was no longer any way he could take care of her, and so we all intervened. We have 6 children in our family. I'm the oldest. We put her into a home where she was the youngest person in the home, and it was the most heart-wrenching thing that I've ever had to do, you know. And fortunately, the home was run by Muslims then, and so there was not a drop of drink in the house, and she wasn't allowed to drink, you know. And since then, she's amazing. I mean, she's had strokes, you know, and she's so tough, you know. She's a punk. That's where I get my spirit from, you know. And she'll do hunger strikes. She'll do all the stuff to keep her power, you know. But we saved her life.
What was the song that came from that?
That song was called "Storm in a Teacup," which is kind of like I don't like to listen to it because I don't like to trivialize my mum because she's a brilliant, special lady, you know. And we were really, really close when we were younger. The things we talked about was amazing, you know.
Well, let's continue down the road. You know, we're all, many of us who are at this conference today virtually, and even in the room today, we're no spring chickens anymore. We are aging, and we're dealing with a lot of topics around aging. That's what we've been talking about today, except for you. No. So just give us just some thoughts and words of wisdom that you wanted to impart, because I know you did some preparation. This turned into more of an interview than I expected it to be, and I thank you for that because I've enjoyed it. But I also want to give you space and time to also communicate some of the things that you wanted to get across today.
Well, let me have a look at my words. But
by the way, the flowers are beautiful.
Oh, thank you. They're in the background. Yeah, I think, let's see. I mean, I was quite cruel to get my mum into the home, you know, and I said to her, "Oh, I've got HIV," right? And that was kind of like me being cruel. That was me trying to shock her into some kind of submission, you know, which I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't advise that to anybody else, but that was one of those things, you know. And our school was very progressive. It was founded by Henry VIII, and it was all boys school, and then got mixed from the first year, from the next year after I joined, and then from the top year above going down, you know. So it joined up. But I'm just reading a little bit from this thing. It says, "To be honest, the town was too small for a boy like me. and I wanted to be in a band, and I used up all the cottages. I believe you call them tea rooms in the US. I was only ever brave enough to spy through the hole. And it would only be a matter of time before I got caught, even though I had girlfriends, inverted commas. I much preferred to fool around with the lads at school, in secret, of course, to the point when no one would speak to me for a few terms. I did pluck up the courage to tell a couple of older prefects that I was in love with them. They lived a couple of doors down from the school. I went and knocked on the door, and they opened the door. I said, well, I just have to tell you, I love you. You know? And I was like 15 or 16, you know, and they said, they were just pretending, and they walked around the school holding hands for shock value, although later I slept with one of them, like he's, you know, not saying anything else more, but anyway. And then in one of our school assemblies, one boy or a couple of boys were suspended for saying that Jesus was gay, or that he was probably gay. And I thought it was perfectly reasonable and feasible that he was gay. And the only time I presented an assembly, which is the preschool service of the day, it was supposed to be about nuclear disarmament. So I played Atomic by Blondie, which I thought was quite appropriate, you know. Let's see. Well, I mean, I was very fortunate. You know, I moved down to London with one of my then girlfriends, and she was training to be a social worker. So I moved down with a whole group of social workers and promised this girl who got pregnant in school, and then her mum had died really early on. So we kind of made friends, and I promised her that I would move her to London. And her brother was gay, and he would come and tell us all stories of he went to heaven, like cha-cha-cha, this club, you know, and he had sex last night with his boyfriend and it really hurt him. And I was like thinking like, oh, what hurt? You know, like not knowing anything, you know, about it. And then we did move to London. We moved to London, and then my then girlfriend, she helped me come out, went joining some of the local gay youth projects. And I was fortunate enough to, I mean, I got picked on by London gay queens in the youth group for being too posh, you know, with my voice and stuff, which I was from a council estate anyway. So I was quite rough where I came from, you know, but because it wasn't London accent, they like poured water on me and did all these things anyway. But then I met this guy, Jonathan, who was lives in a gay cooperative house. So I went there, and that's where I got my education, because they had one girl, Lisa Power, or she was working for Shelter. Now they're all big names, like in, you know, society. And
sure.
And then the Pink newspaper. I went along with my boyfriend then, Jonathan, who was like the reporter, and I would take photos of people in clubs, like reviewing the clubs and things like that, you know. And then there's another guy called Nick Partridge, who was a boyfriend of one of our other people in the flat, who became Sir Nick Partridge, working for the Terence Higgins Trust here in the UK. So this was all just circumstance, you know. And I just felt like this kind of like, you know, dumb little actor that had come from this town, like, you know, a bit like Marilyn. I don't know if she came from Lubbock or if that was Buddy Holly, I'm not sure. But anyway.
Well, so, Marilyn was here. Marilyn used to be here in Palm Springs.
Oh, bless her.
Yes.
I love her, you know. But then I started going out, and I was very shy on my own, and saw Boy George, Marilyn, Kenny Everett, all these people. And one of my flatmates said to me, "Oh, I used to rehearsal onto records to Communards, King Crimson, 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 King Crim Alison Moyet, and he said,
Right.
this is going to be you in a year's time. And I thought, how do you know? And then it came true. You know, that came true. That came true.
So Vince is here in the U.S. Have you? Are you planning a move to the U.S.? Are you staying across the pond?
Yeah, I would not plan a move to the US. We looked into it, and you know, my first husband passed. He was from California, and now my new husband is from Miami, and we find it best. I mean, I was about to get a green card. It was literally the day before. We were in the lawyer's office in New York, and he said, "Do you realize if you sign this green card, you're going to be taxed as a single white man, which is the highest tax threshold you can get in the whole of America, and you won't have any medical insurance. You'll have to pay, like being an HIV positive man, that would be impossible." You know? That's one thing I have to tell you is, you know, now when we go on tour, I'm literally walking on a tightrope without a net underneath, because, you know, I would have to do full on medical examinations before the tour, you know. But now I just thought, like, what the hell, you know, it's kind of, there's no use, there's no point, because I'm not going to be in that position. You know, if anything did happen to me at that point where I'm going to be fighting to, like, pay for my, you know, medical bills, you know. You know, it's free here, and it's like, what these, it's like, I think my boyfriend understands now, you know, because we have free medical service here in the UK, which is honestly, it's incredible since the Second World War, doesn't mean that you're a socialist country.
Right.
You know,
we all know.
Don't need to fear a word which is socialist. You don't need to fear that word, you know? It's a word, it doesn't mean anything, you know?
Right, exactly. I know, but luckily with our group, the people that we have here, I think you're finding friends, and I think you're finding people that completely agree with our position, and especially many living with HIV and all the issues that surrounded having healthcare over the years, and medicine. And
I mean, it's lovely. I have to say, every time I've been there, you know, in the US, and we're touring around, you know, we've always found allies. We've always found doctors that are willing to see me, and they, you know, they'll do my tests and things, and they'll say, "Andy, you're fine." They say, "You take this, you're going to be fine." You know? I love that. I love that. That's humanity. That is caring, and that is not demonizing people.
Exactly. And Andy, what a perfect way to end. You've been so generous with your time today. I just want to say thank you on behalf of our world community and everyone here today. And it's such a pleasure that you could join us for the Aging Positively Reunion Project in Palm Springs, California. And we hope you'll be on tour in the US. Are there any plans?
We're coming in January in the US. Our first show is in 2 weeks tomorrow in Glasgow. That's why I have pink eye. That's the pressure, you see.
Oh dear, yes.
But yes, we'll be there in January, and I want to thank you so much for letting me be part of this program. I hope I wasn't too political for you.
Oh no, we love you being political. It's actually fine. We like that.
Good.
We so like that. Andy, again, thank you so much, everyone. I don't know if you can see everybody on your screen, if you hit that, you know, broad view where you get 100 squares somewhere, you'll see all these people, you know, yay. So Andy Bell, Erasure fame. So want to say thank you today. And this has been really a highlight for me to have a chance to talk with you today. and a hero from, you know, being out and proud and who you are and writing music and performing music that speaks to our community and speaks to our trials and tribulations. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Certainly enjoyed it. Thanks again. And I'd like to thank everyone who participated today in the conference. Our conference team, including JP Allen, Christopher Christensen, Stephen Henke, Julie Hirsch, Valerio, Iovina, Brett Klein, Sue Lowe, Jack Newby, Candace Nichols, Rebecca Sandlin, Jeff Taylor, and CJ Tobe. I don't think I missed anybody except myself, Brad Fuhr. And I want to say thank you all for joining us today and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Keep on fighting. Take nothing for granted.